So point B, Paul asks a rhetorical question to be answered, yes. Do believers have beliefs on matters of personal opinion, regarding how to live their lives before the Lord? This is followed by Paul's answer, command for believers to be faithful to their beliefs on matters of personal opinion before the Lord, and to keep them private, so as not to cause others to stumble. For blessed is the believer who does not condemn himself by doubting his beliefs that motivate his actions before the Lord. He who doubts brings God's temporal condemnation upon himself, because he is in effect doubting the sovereignty and character of God, upon whom the believer's beliefs are to be centered. A mouthful is Romans chapter 14 about the conscience of the Christian, mature and immature. It is good neither to eat meat nor drink wine nor do anything for which your brother stumbles or is offended or is made weak. Do you have faith? Have it to yourself before God. Happy is he who does not condemn himself in what he approves. But he who doubts is condemned if he eats, because he does not eat from faith. For whatever is not from faith is sin. In Romans 14:22, Paul asks believers rhetorically, do you have faith? Do you have your own personal opinions, beliefs, how to live your life before God? The word faith in verse 23 refers to what one believes relative to matters of a personal opinion in one's conduct before God. This is followed by Paul's answer command for believers to be faithful to their beliefs on matters of personal opinion in their conduct before God, but keep them private so as not to cause others to stumble. Romans 14:22b, especially weaker believers. For blessed is the believer who does not condemn himself by doubting his beliefs that motivate his actions before the Lord. He who doubts brings God's temporal condemnation upon himself, because he is, in effect, doubting the sovereignty and character of God, upon whom the believer's beliefs are to be centered. Since acting with faith means that one has chosen to act in a way in one's own understanding that best serves and honors the Lord, that best acknowledges his sovereignty in one's life and his righteousness, that he expects one to be righteous as he is righteous, then when one does not act in faith, but acts with doubt, then one is demonstrating that one is not convinced that what one is doing is righteous before the Lord, or serves the Lord, or that the Lord is sovereign over all matters. Romans 14:5-8. One person regards one day above another, another regards every day alike. Each person must be fully convinced in his own mind. See, we're going back and review this verse. This is in this chapter. He who observes the day observes it for the Lord, and he who eats does so for the Lord, for he gives thanks to God. And he who eats not for the Lord, he does not eat, and gives thanks to God. For not one of us lives for himself, and not one dies for himself. For if we live for the Lord, or if we die for the Lord. Therefore, whether we live or die, we are the Lord's. Note that in Romans 14:5-8, Paul indicates that each believer should be fully convinced in his own mind and not act in doubt relative to his view on the observance of each day in serving the Lord. Romans 14:7-8 further indicates that this exhortation includes all matters of the faith that are of personal opinion. In the final analysis, Paul asks a rhetorical question to be answered yes in 14:22a. Do believers have beliefs on personal matters of opinion, how to live their lives before the Lord? This is followed by Paul's answer, command for believers to be faithful to their beliefs on personal matters of opinion before the Lord, and to keep them private so as not to cause others to stumble. For blessed is the believer who does not condemn himself by doubting his beliefs that motivate his actions before the Lord. He who doubts brings God's temporal condemnation upon himself, because he is in effect doubting the sovereignty and character of God, upon whom the believer's beliefs are to be centered. It is implied that whatever one believes relative to leading one's life before God, biblical or not, their faith is intimately connected to the character of God. Hence it is God's sovereignty and veracity that the believer is ultimately doubting when the believer does not act upon what he does from faith. BKC answers, concerning personal convictions in areas where different views exist, Paul concluded, so whatever you believe about these things, the faith that you have, or do you have faith? Keep between yourself and God. A Christian must not insist on influencing a believer with tighter scruples to change his ways. It should be something in his own mind, for he lives to the Lord. Paul considered a Christian like himself who had a clear conscience on such matters blessed or happy. On the other hand, a Christian who has doubts is condemned if he eats. If a Christian eats food or does anything when he has doubts in his own mind as to whether it is right or wrong before God, one who is weak in faith, his action does not spring from out of his faith or trust in God and is therefore wrong. As Paul generalized, everything that does not come from out of faith is sin. The principle is, when in doubt, don't. The strong Christian is wrong if he causes a weak brother to sin by doing something while doubting, and a weak brother who goes against what he doubts also sins.